so we don't want them asking for the latest trend. We want them to ask for something they're going to need. We also ask they join organizations. That's why I have Collegiate 100. And they can do this during their freshman year, I believe. I don't think you have to wait. You don't have to have a certain amount of hours. I'm not quite sure. But I think they can join these nice organizations. Maybe out the side, maybe. The National Association of Social Workers, Association of Healthcare Administrative Professionals. These are organizations they can join at the collegiate level that will catapult them into their, at the graduate level or when at the professional level. So again, this is what I asked them to do. I said, instead of asking for this, ask for this, because that's what they're going to need to get them through the next 4 years. Okay, hopefully they're going to need this. If they get 2 suits, they're good. They can interchange. If they get, navy blue and black, that's all they need. And instead of asking for these, we ask for these. You can get those, but instead of paying for those, this is what they need to be having. This is no joke. They really need these shoes because we see some really different things when students come to interview. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But we always ask them to just be conservative. Okay? So what can they do right now? We always say to them, even as a freshman, start getting your 60-second marketing speech. You may have heard it being called an elevator speech. I call it a marketing speech because it markets them. It tells them who they are. You're telling the person of the employer who you are. Talk about your qualities or skills for about 45 of those 60 seconds. And then write down what employers you want to know about. So those are some of the things that we're asking them to do during their, the first and second year at TSU. And then those are just some of the examples that I share with them of how they can, try their marketing speech. They can write it down first and then practice it in the mirror. So they can do that as well. And they need to start that very, very soon, because one of the things that our employers are saying, and I have to go back to the employers because who's going to hire them? Is Tina going to hire them? I love them, and I would love to give all of them a job, but I don't know. Dr. Patrick going to hire them? No, because he's hiring. So is Dr. Johnson going to hire them? You want to. You were advocating for a student this week. You were all in there. So I'm just saying, we're not going to hire them. So they need to know how to speak and communicate and to be able to share their professional experiences and goals and desires to employers. And I always have to go back to the employers because they are a very important component of this grant as well. We haven't talked about them, but they're the ones who are going to hire our students. Yes, ma'am.
While you're on that subject about the employers, I was an intern for the Tennessee Education Lottery last year with Ms. Corey Moore.
Yep.
And I was able to go to lunch with the COO of the company, Ms. Wanda. And one of the things that she shared with me was, I understand that you go to TSU, but one of the problems that we always have is that with the TSU students, they're not as serious or as committed. And she said, well, I really love how you're really eager, you do your job, you do this, you do that, and I wish that you were able to accept more students like you. Because when we look at this, or we look at Lane, or any other HBCUs in Tennessee, we find that students from TSU, they're not as engaged as we need them to be on the job. So I thought that was really interesting and relevant to what you were saying at first.
Okay, very well. I'm glad that you shared that with us because it's coming from a student and she got it from an employer. So those are the things that I hear too. And again, I can't put that on university communications. Maybe if I did, maybe that would help. But honestly, that's what we hear. Students aren't engaged, students can't communicate well. And so back to what I'm saying, the employers. And I'm pretty much over our employer relations program in the Career Development Center. So I work with them and I try to figure out what they want, what they're looking for. Every employer is different. We got an employer who said TSU students were engaged, but guess what major that was? It was engineering. So they said these students were eager. Not all engineering students are eager, I'm not saying that, but the particular ones that they saw during the mock interviews, they were freshmen. So that was good. And they had someone to push them too. So that's another thing. We have to push our students at this point a little bit more than maybe we would at another school. I don't know, but we do have to do a little bit more pushing. And I see that in my office too. I have to okay, I got this scholarship. did you apply for it? Oh, yeah, Ms. Mayor, I'm going to apply for it. And then I'll send another email. Oh, yeah, what does it do tomorrow? Oh, let me come by your office. Can you write this for me? No, I can't. We've had plenty of time, but I can help you. That's what I tell them. So, and then I ask them if they have any questions. And then we just talk about career planning because that's very important. And then I ask them questions like, what are soft skills? Those soft skills are very important. And that's some of the things they have to articulate during their interview process as well. So there's one more thing I want to share with you, and this is probably what you're probably interested in the most. And this is some high impact strategies that I think would work. All first year students will be automatically registered for TigerTrack. TigerTrack, maintained by the Career Development Center, is an online database where students and employers connect. Okay, so students and employers can look at resumes, they can schedule on-campus interviews, they can schedule professional development workshops through us, they can come on campus and do their branding as well. They can do all this through TigerTrack. So TigerTrack is a mix of two employers, recruiters, students, faculty. You all can have a TigerTrack account and alumni. So these are just some of the objectives. I won't go through all of them, but we want to increase the number of students registered on TigerTrack because the more students who are registered, the more we can reach out to them. If we go to this handshake, which is a single sign-on component or technologies, then we probably won't have that. That problem or that issue, because the only issue that we're going to have is that you're just not receiving the information, but the information is going to be given to you. So some of the specific tasks would be to collaborate with TSU institutional effectiveness to obtain the email addresses for the students, marketing materials to advertise the purpose of Handshake or TigerTrack, whichever one we go to. So we will still have to do our marketing, because even though we say, hey, every student on here is registered with our technology system and our career management system in the Career Development Center, they may not know what that means. They get an email from me and they don't know who I am. They're freshmen. They're like, well, who is this Miss Bertina Reed? Because that comes up on my email. They just delete, and they still delete it. And then I get this too. They'll say, oh, I'll say, did you get that email? And they say, oh, no, I didn't get it. Then they go back and say, oh, yeah, there it is, or they'll delete it. So we need to let them know that this is career stuff. And I tell students all the time, say, if I'm emailing you, I'm not emailing you joke of the day. I'm very serious about this. So it's career stuff. I don't email you. I mean, I might email you a scholarship information, but it's going to help you. It's going to benefit you. It's not about the party that, is happening tomorrow or this weekend. It's strictly Career Development Center related when I email students. So we do have some high impact strategies. The one, and I'll just go through it quickly and I'm done. Strategy number one is all first year students register with TigerTrack. 2 is connect with Cooter, which we talked about, Cooter Journey. And then 3 is utilize best practices to provide students with internship placement opportunities and enhance the internship program so the students will be more competitive in the global economy. Dr. Pageant said exactly what he said, the truth. He spoke the truth. If a student only has one internship, that's not a bad thing. But if they're going up against another student with 2 or 3, still not a bad thing, but that student is not competitive as the one with the 2 or 3 internships, because they consider that as experience. And I know when I graduated, it was like, well, how do you get a job? We've been in school for 4 years. We don't have an experience. They're quick to tell you, but you don't have experience. But if you have internship or work experience, mainly that internship, you have experience, and you probably need at least 2. We say 1, but you probably need at least 2 to really make yourself competitive, because it is competitive. And strategy 4 is utilize technology to prepare students for opportunities. So the EAB system is good. There's a Career Development Center component on there, a career component, Handshake or TigerTrack. That's good because it helps us to reach the students. So all of that would be strategies or impact. I know y'all call them HIPs as well. I try to change it up a little bit. But a high impact practice or a high impact strategy. Those are the 4 right now that I think that we need to start thinking about in terms of putting into a module. So that's all I have. Do you have any questions? All right. Okay, well, that's it.
I have a quick question. This goes back to Dr. Pat's presentation also. Just thinking about reaching some of the students, especially the younger students, is there any data available, or are we going to be able to capture data that can tell us something about declared majors versus non-declared majors or undeclared students, and how they value or how they view the career trajectory? And you can't really connect the major with potential job if you haven't figured out what you want to do yet. And a lot of students, even some grad students, like, I really don't know what I want to do yet.
That part goes back to career planning and Cooter, and that's how we've been handling that.
Cooter's helpful.
It's very helpful. At one point, we were really, trying to get with those undeclared majors in terms of just working with them and then trying to figure out what they wanted to do. And it's hard because we don't tell them what major to choose. We can only guide them and, seek out, have counseling sessions with them and say, or I call them advising sessions because I'm not a counselor. So I'll say, well, what do you like? What hobbies do you like? And so when they start going off the deep end, like shopping or whatever. No, that's not the deep end, but I mean, if you are undeclared and you like shopping, then do you want to go into fashion merchandising? No, not necessarily, because I like to shop, but I don't want to go into fashion merchandising. So I just want to make the money to go shop. So you have to think about your lifestyle as well and what you like. So what we do in terms of undeclared majors is we really keep them with the advisement piece. And we've had some to, I've had only maybe 2 or 3 that I worked with, so I'm going to speak from my experience. We went to Cooter. We went to ONET online. The person was a business major, and then and then she changed to become a nursing major, but she felt like she wanted to help people. And then again, there was the money aspect of it as well. So she did graduate, but I don't know if she's a nurse now or not.
And the other part of that question is to you, I guess, Dr. Patchen, in terms of the software, will it be able to examine whether having a major or not declaring a major will impact their success in terms of retention and graduation and that kind of thing, as opposed to just the grades that they obtain in certain courses?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but once we get the consultants or whoever's going to be working with this, that's something that a parameter we might
like
look
at
at.
a certain time, if they still haven't declared, that it might have an impact on retention.
Yeah, I was going to ask you a question. I don't know this, but do you all know, can you graduate without declaring a major? So you have to have a major when you.
Yeah, IDS. You can do IDS.
Okay. Yeah, because I always thought.
Yeah, but it's technically a major, but it's not engineering, or it's not math. It's like I have all this courses in all this area, so now what am I going to do?
But is there a time that you have to declare a major by? Like
No, but
second
that's
year,
what,
third year?
and that's what I was gonna say too, and I think, is maybe one of the reasons why like the graduation rate is at 6 years right now, because, they don't really tell us as freshmen coming in that you have to have a certain GPA or you have to make sure you have these required classes to get into this program. They don't really like instill how important that is. They just say, make sure you keep your grade up. Don't fall below a 3.0. But some degree programs at TSU are extremely competitive. Some degree programs you have to take an entrance exam just to get in. And so what happens is, like I know with a lot of like nursing majors, for example, if you're not accepted, on time, you get pushed back a semester to a year just to get into the program. So then you're taking, random classes, and that adds on to your graduation. So I had people to tell me, make sure you keep your GPA as high as possible. Mm-hmm. But I know a lot of freshmen that came in with me weren't aware of those things until it was time to apply for those programs, and they didn't have the qualifications. Yeah, so I think that's also a big deal.
And I think there's a disconnect between what students have been told and what they listen to and remember, because it's where I'm pretty sure the majority of the students are told, if you want to be in speech, if you want to it's written somewhere you have to do A, B, and C. Now, if it sounds like Charlie Brown womp to them, that's a different story. So I mean, I think it's where we have to make sure that when students are told this, they're actually listening, hearing, and understanding. So I mean, so we need to do something differently, but I think we have to be careful when we say that they weren't told because.
Yeah, like, for example, like in advisement, I remember, my freshman year when I went and got advised for my next semester, they say on the advisement sheet, C or higher. Well, most students would look at that and be like, oh, well, all I have to get is a C. Yeah, all you have to get is a C to pass the class. However, when you're trying to matriculate into your degree program, that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for a B or an A. And if you don't have that, and the thing is, another issue that we can't control, but a lot of people will transfer into the degree program. So now you're not just going up against TSU students, you're also going up against students who are transferring in. You see what I'm saying? So, I mean, they see C or higher. They're like, oh, all I have to get is a C, or all I have to get is this grade or this grade. Yes, it passed, but that's not what they're looking for. It's for competitive fields, you have to be at the highest or try and get as high as you possibly can. So,
Well, I think with this grant and with this program and implementing these strategies, I think the students will become more aware, which is really what this grant is about. Because you all have said it, and I've heard it before. They don't know where Career Development Center is. They don't know where Tiger Track is. They don't know they're supposed to get a certain grade to be, to get into a program. And I've always thought, and it really comes from just your culture, because when I was in high school, I didn't, I'm just being honest, I didn't have those issues because I made good grades in high school. So I automatically think that if you make good grades in high school, you should know you need to make good grades in college. That's even more serious. But some students don't have that connection. And so that's where we need to get the students who don't have that connection. They're not, they think, okay, I don't think college is easy, but they're not, like you said, they'll see, well, all I need to make is a C. But is that all you needed to make in high school? I mean, so it really is a culture thing too, in terms of just making sure those students know, the ones who just think, oh, that's all I need to make sure that they can go higher, because that's called mediocrity. And we have to teach them not to be that. So, and I just want to make one comment on undeclared majors. There's some study out about undeclared majors. And so one of the things is that, well, one study was a student should come to school with a major. That's it. And there was a couple of articles, and they were saying the reason why they shouldn't come to school with a major is because the first year and a half, anyway, they're going to take those core classes like English, math, whatever, and that's when they have time to decide. So, and then there's another study that's saying a lot of high schools are having these academies. Nashville is one of them, where they're having students to kind of dip into their interests. Like they'll have like you can take some economic and finance classes. Like I know MLK is STEM, so they have this big engineering program. So, are all the students going to be engineers? I don't know, but that's what their focus is. And then of course, they're liberal arts. So those students may already come in with a major in mind because they've kind of already been immersed and they kind of know that. But then again, there was another study that said like 62% of students, maybe higher, change their majors once they get here, once they get in college, because they start to see, they're not sure, and they start to see other things, and they start hearing, and they start, becoming themselves. So, but anyway, so you can look at those studies and see more about undeclared majors and how you can help them. But that's it.
Okay, so now we'll have Dr. Dark come. Oh, thank you, Tina. Thanks, Tina. So, could someone just pass around a roll sheet? Just have like your name, email address, and what?
Is it okay for me to stand here?
Yeah.
Can I be heard?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay. So I'm Joel Dark. I don't know if I am here just for today or if I'm being brought on in some way, but I'm the Associate Dean of the College of Liberal Arts. I'm also the chair of the General Education Committee at the university. So we kind of oversee the general education course. And then I've also been involved a lot with accreditation in different ways, the SACS, COC. And so I've looked at a lot of data. And so I think I'm here really to share some of that data. And it sounds like it's very much aligned with what you all are talking about, and even maybe what the Education Advisory Board software may be able to provide more efficiently. And I'm just going to pass this out. I didn't know if I would have PowerPoint, so I decided just to do handouts. There are 3 sheets. They're all kind of stacked on top of each other. So if you could just take one of each, we can look at those. I would say that the accreditation bodies and also the state of Tennessee have, during the time I've been at TSU, they've shifted in their focus from originally being primarily interested in looking at programs, so kind of programmatic coherence, what kind of classes are you teaching, does it make sense that you're teaching these classes, to then, I'd say maybe about 10 years ago, there was a shift toward more what are students learning. So that's where you've got all this language about competencies and learning outcomes, and students really demonstrate that they can do something at the end of the course or at the end of a program. And then really maybe 6 or 7 years ago, there was this shift toward this idea of student success. And Dr. Padgett has already mentioned this, but the state's funding of the university is now based on these student success measures. And a lot of that is simply whether students are progressing through the curriculum. So retention is the number of first-time, full-time students who enter in the fall semester who are still here the following fall semester. So that's retention. Progression is different than retention. So progression is how many students are achieving a certain number of hours. So how many students get to 30 hours, how many students get to 60 hours, how many students get to 90 hours. So that's progression, which is different than retention. And then finally, you have the graduation rate. And the number that Dr. Padgett quoted earlier, I think everyone knows this number, because it's an easy number to remember, and it's also kind of shocking, is this 8% number, right? So that 8% of the first-time, full-time freshmen who enter TSU in a given fall semester graduate 4 years later. And that's a very, very low number. I will say that number does not include students who transfer somewhere else and graduate. So that's significant, I think. And it also, of course, doesn't include students who complete in 4.5 years or 5 years or 6 years. But that 8% number, I think because it's kind of shocking, has been getting a lot of people's attention, and probably rightly so. In several different capacities, I've been asked to look at what role course completion has to do in this, right? So finishing courses. And the story is actually pretty complicated, and that's why I've handed out all this stuff. The first sheet, or at least I don't know what order you got these in, but the first, and this is only for the College of Liberal Arts. At the end, I'll talk a little bit about the whole university. But for the College of Liberal Arts, the Board of Regents a few years ago identified what they call fingerprint courses. I've never been able to figure out what they call them, fingerprint courses. This is the one that's hard to read. It's the one that's kind of key courses. So they identified for every program courses that a student would need to pass and what grade they would need to pass in order to have a probability, and I'm guessing that means 50% probability or something like that, but to have a probability of graduating, right? So you can see, the first time I looked at this, I thought, this is a little confusing. Because, for example, in history, History 4500 on that list, that's our capstone course. And yet they're saying if you get a D in that class, you'll probably graduate. But if you think about it, that's probably true, right? Because probably, if you're in your capstone course and you get a D, what are you probably going to do? You're going to use the course That's true. You're probably not going to drop out at that point. You know, whereas if you back up in the history curriculum, you can see that you actually have to get a B in English 1010 or English 1020 in order to have a probability of actually completing that program. So I believe that this information all came from the Tennessee Board of Regents, which we recently separated from. My guess is that they probably used some of the same kind of analytics that Dr. Patrick is talking about. They referred to a Bayesian analysis. Some of you were statisticians, maybe you know what that is. But they set as a goal, the Tennessee Board of Regents did, that in these key courses, that students would have a 70% completion rate, which I think in general means C or better, right? So you get a C or better, you've completed the class. And so what I did for the College of Liberal Arts, and that's the colorful sheet, is I took all of these courses that they had said were important for one of our programs, and then I checked to see what was the completion rate between 2010 and 2015. And as you can see here, generally speaking, those completion rates are pretty good. That was kind of surprising for me. But usually in the College of Liberal Arts, the completion rates are good. And then I compared that rate to what we achieved the last academic year, 2015, 2016. And as you can see, there really are not that many courses that are a problem. There are some. And so what we've done in the College of Liberal Arts is to try to reduce that number, right? So if we had, and you can see at the last line on the second page, you know, we had 69.4 approximately % of the courses were achieving that 70% threshold, and we tried to raise that, or at least we said we would like to see that raised. And in 2015, 2016, that number was up to 75%. So there were, I don't know how many courses there are total, but you know, there were 63 courses where we had a satisfactory completion rate. And by the way, the Board of Regents has said that 70% is their best guess at what the target should be, right? I mean, if you think about it, you don't really want 100% completion rate in a class, because that's probably going to suggest that the teacher is not really upholding the solid academic standard. Yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to use the first one, it says art appreciation.
Right.
So you're saying, when you say completion rate, are you saying 79.8%?
I'm saying that 79.8% of the students who were enrolled in art appreciation in 2015, 2016 passed with a C or better.
Okay.
That's what that means.
That's completion rate, C or better?
C or better is completion. And so the other, you know, approximately 20% of students,
Not graduation, just
The class, yeah, that's what
completion of that particular course. That's why when people talk about progression, retention, completion, and program completion, those are different things, right? This is course completion. So one of the takeaways for me from all of this, because we reported some of this to the Southern Association of, and you were on that committee actually, the Commission on Colleges. One of the takeaways from this is that course completion in liberal arts is not really our main obstacle to program completion. I don't know what those obstacles are. I think some of the comments you made earlier may be closer to the reason that we're not seeing completion. But generally speaking, in liberal arts, and there are some exceptions, but our high enrollment classes, students are passing for the most part, and they're passing with a C or better. In some cases, I'm even a little bit concerned. This is being recorded, I suppose, but you know, when I see a really, really high completion rate, I'm almost more concerned about what's happening in my class, because you can have some grade inflation going on. So what does this look like for the whole university, though? And here's where I think we have some interesting information. If you look on the sheet that says general education courses, which I've only done for 2010 to 2015. I have not done anything for 2015, 2016, or this current academic year on this, because I did this for the Southern Association accreditation. You can see here that there is a huge outlier in this, and that's math. Only 48.1% of students are completing their math courses with a C or better. And that is, if you think about what that probably does, just from a student's perspective, right? If you continue to run up against that obstacle, then that could be affecting our graduation rate and the associated skills, right, which you sometimes need to get into certain programs. That could be affecting our degree completion rate or our program completion rate as well. So, and this brings me then to, I guess, something that I would really like to discuss with all of you. Some of you probably know that every 10 years, the university has to do a quality enhancement plan. You've probably seen the signs around that say "right" with a kind of rainbow. That was our 2010 quality enhancement plan. It was writing across the curriculum plan. And for 2020, we have to do another one for 2020. And it seems to me very, very likely that that plan is going to focus on the kind of work that this group is doing in some capacity. Because in the current situation, our university funding and everything else is related to progression. And so it would be, and also the accrediting body, SACS or the SACS COC, they have actually shifted, or are in the process of doing it, to say that student success, as opposed to a specific set of learning outcomes, can be the focus of the quality enhancement plan. So in 2010, when we did that quality enhancement plan, that was in an era where they had to say, they said, this whole plan has to be about improving what students can demonstrate they can do, right? So it had to be, what will students learn and how will you measure that they learned it? Student success is obviously related to that, but it's a little bit different, right? Because student success can have to do with things that are more what they call metacognition, right? So how well, what's your, what are your own learning strategies and career strategies? What's your career path? What's your, I mean, really in some ways, what you're doing here would make a really interesting quality enhancement plan. And in fact, I would go so far as to say that the only two options that I currently see, and I'm sure others will emerge from discussion, but the only really appropriate focus areas for a quality enhancement plan that I can imagine would be something like what you're doing, or what would be the other one? Math, right? We could obviously do something on, that was, for which we had a really solid rationale if it was focused on, on those math classes. So that's pretty much everything that I wanted to present. I really wanted to get in, for anyone who will listen to me, I want to say course completion in English, history, political science, art, music, those speech, I'm not saying those courses can't be improved, but I don't think it makes a lot of sense to focus on let's get those completion rates up because they're already pretty high, right? I think there are other places where we really need to focus. So I wanted to communicate that, and then I was, more than anything, I just wanted to learn what you're doing and then to have a kind of exchange of ideas, questions, and answers, because I thought that could really inform my work as well as yours.
What's the difference between completion and retention? I mean, I know you complete something, but you're also retaining them at the same time.
Well, okay, so all kinds of things. So let's think about that. I mean, if someone comes here as a freshman in fall 2017 and isn't here in fall 2018, that could mean lots of things, right? I mean, that could mean they transferred to another university. That could mean they ran out of money. That could mean, but it doesn't mean, as far as I can tell, it doesn't mean that they didn't pass the bulk of their class. I mean, what's happening now? Math, yeah. I mean, if you have half of the people failing the math class, that's a big deal. But it's not. For the most part, that's the only general education course for which we have a really high failure rate. And by the way, completion rate is basically A's, B's, and C's divided by the total enrollment. So what doesn't go into the completion rate, or what doesn't count for as completion, is if you get an incomplete, you get a D, if you get an F, you withdraw from the class. All that is the equivalent of not completing according to that formula.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to ask the students is one of the things that we've noticed is that there's a significant drop off after the sophomore year. So right now we have about a 69% freshman retention rate, which is somewhat steady after the sophomore year. But then after the sophomore year, we notice a lot of students leave. And one of the things that I've heard speculated about amongst the faculty is that that's when students will transfer out of here, whether they're, I mean, do you see a lot of your peers deciding after their sophomore year, I'm going to go to MTSU? That's pretty prevalent.
Well, one of my friends transferred after her sophomore year, and it's not, I don't think that it's common, but a lot of times that's what people think. Oh, I can go here for 2 years. Oh, I'm thinking about transferring, so I'll go somewhere else after my second year.
Yeah. Also, I don't think you can transfer as a junior. I think you can transfer as a sophomore, but as
And you can at some schools, but the only thing is that.
Give them some credit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, you can transfer anytime, but it just, like I said, it'll push you back
Yeah, you
a
may
year
not
or two,
graduate
or
your
what
4
they'll
years.
say to you is like, you can graduate with interdisciplinary studies, take the classes you need to go into a master's program that you were originally moving towards as far as undergrad.
To your earlier point, one thing that we do see a lot within the disciplinary studies is people who were trying to do a pre-professional selected program and then for whatever reason aren't able to make that transition and then don't graduate in 4 years, because then they have to go back and construct an interdisciplinary curriculum. So I think you're right, Dr. Padgett, that is a point that really needs some close examination. Is what happens. Are students sort of seeing this as a launching pad to do something else, or is it a combination of?
Yeah, because I was thinking if we could, I don't know whether we could need to use the software. We could look at students who actually leave and look at their GPAs, if that's possible. And so if we say that the average student that leaves with the GPA they're in good standing, then they are probably transferring. And so if we're losing students that are in good standing because they're transferring, that's a whole other discussion.
Well, I mean, one really easy thing, you could do this in 30 minutes with Excel, right? If you had a list, which you can get, of first-time, full-time freshman enrollment for fall 2017, well, let's say fall 2016, right? Then you get a list of total enrollment for fall 2017. Do a match function, find out so then you know immediately who's not here, and then pull the GPAs. And then, I mean, and that could tell you are they leaving for curricular or non-curricular reasons. And I do think, I mean, my own intuition is that there's a fairly large non-curricular piece, right? That some people are going for some other reasons.
I mean, I know a lot of out-of-state students, they have difficulties, and so it's easier and it's cheaper, and they don't really discover that until, until they're through their first freshman year, and then they're like, oh my goodness, I have all these loans where I could have just gone to a school in my state, and it would have been a lot cheaper, same degree program, and they're closer to their home, but that's like a whole bunch of things.
Yeah, and they've given the, go to another state and have a college experience. They've given that a try.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
They tried it and they're like, okay, I'm homesick now.
Yeah. Any other questions? I've really enjoyed. Thank you for your time. I've really enjoyed that.
How do you take this for our
There, actually, I had that in the list of things I was supposed to say. It does, I have it actually for the whole university. So I just, because I was only doing my liberal arts piece, I filtered it. But that list of courses that the board says are the critical courses, I have that for every program. And I'll be glad to share that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Dart. Okay, well, have to figure this out next time. So has everybody been able to sign the roll? Is there a roll sheet going around? Oh, good. Great. Maybe we'll have someone who knows how to. I think we do have a group meet. I just found out. I don't have anything to do with it, but whoever, there's a person who's, I guess, does the person who set up the group meet have to be the person that adds people to the group meet?
No,
Anybody can add a person to the group meet? Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you can add to it, but whoever creates it is always going to be like the administrator.
Okay.
That's the only like issue. So I mean, if they're still around, then we actually add people to the one
Yeah.
we have. But if not,
Yeah.
right. But if not, then just start and delete it.
Okay, so someone can add the new people to do whatever that is.
Yeah, you just type in their phone number.
I can't.
Or their email.
Somebody else who knows what that is. But yeah, but thanks, students. You all, this is probably the most input we've ever had from students. So thank you very much. And I will get everybody up to speed on the stipends, extra service pay, blah blah blah. And then probably by the next meeting I'll know what the deal is with that. So if no one else has anything to add, we are adjourned. 90 minutes, sis.
So,
Yeah, but I mean, no
for
one
those persons who are new, will Jessica ask them to do whatever you ask them to, or contact them, or?
Yeah, I have the email, and then I guess put the email and the group together.
All right, Jessica is on the group meet too?
Yeah, we can add the new people to the group meet.